This is the Lyndsay Stafford Show.
All right, welcome back to the Lyndsay Stafford Show. And right now we are featuring local legends in Middle Tennessee. And I have a local legend with me. This is Mr. Tom Law, who is an expert when it comes to some topics that can be a little confusing. So we're going to hear about his journey. But if you are aging or know people that are aging, he's going to be a good one to listen to. So stay tuned for this. Tom, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be
So
here.
excited to have you. So, Tom, you are very successful in your industry, and you own a business, Health Markets. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, let's back up a little bit because my success came from making a lot of mistakes. Okay,
Isn't that how it
messing
works?
up a few times? Yeah, I stumbled into this. I was in the wholesale business for 30 years of my life. Grew up in it. Had a dad who owned a company. Woke up one day from being in having everything, from company cars to corporate memberships to country clubs to great benefits to waking up the next day and I was on COBRA and I didn't have anything. And we moved to the Tennessee area, got plugged in and doing some things. And I was on COBRA paying about $1,400 a month for a family of 6, thinking this is getting dumb. I went into this guy's office to get a better policy, and it turned into a job interview while I was sitting there. And here we are today. That was 2008. And so here we are, 15, 16 years later. And I've been doing this for quite a while. And so it's interesting because I tell people all the time, if you'd have told me this is what I was going to be doing back then, I'd have taken you behind the fence and beat you up and said, don't you ever call me an insurance guy. It's nowhere on my radar. Knowing what I know now, I wish I'd started when I was 25.
Right.
I have a passion for it. I have a love for it. We're solving problems. We're helping people understand what this stuff is because the government's taken something that was pretty simple and made it very confusing. So our job is to help make it unconfusing and get it in people's hands and help them feel better about what they have, when our conversations are over. But that's kind of what kind of got me into it, and never knew I would enjoy it as much as I did and have the passion that I have for it. But it is, and it's we are helping people every day, and there's a lot of joy and satisfaction that comes from that.
You for insurance, which is not a very exciting world, you make it pretty exciting, not only with your knowledge and expertise and care, but you make it fun. And you're one of the funniest, unintentionally funniest people that I know. I'm not going to ask you to sing for us, but you do that sometimes. Yeah, I mean, you could.
Let's not. I don't want him turning the radio off immediately.
But you keep it fun, and I think that's so special. What were you doing before this?
I was in the wholesale business. We called on plumbers, home builders, heating and air conditioning guys, and we had, my family had a business. We had 10 stores. We had 300 employees across Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, and then we sold to a big conglomeration. Most people have heard of Ferguson. That became and that's who I went to work for in Dallas for about 8 years, and so that was just a whole different demographic, but I dealt with self-employed people all day long because most of these guys who built houses, most of these people who came in our showrooms and the stuff, we were dealing with emotions because that's, for most people, when you're building a house, that's the biggest check you're ever going to write.
Right.
And so it's the most exciting, exhilarating, fun, horrible, cruddy, rotten experience you'll ever go through. And so that was kind of what we dealt with. And so this just kind of fell in line with that. And it's just, insurance is a funny thing because there's nothing tangible. It's not pretty. It doesn't look sexy on my wall. You can't eat it. You can't taste it. You can't smell it. It's not something that everyone says, hey, look at that. It's one of those things that we have to get to a person to a certain point and help them understand, hey, this is important. This is something you need. And we have to ask the right questions and help them figure out what is the best thing for them. And so for so many people, once they start getting something done, it's like, let's just get this done and draw a line through it. Okay. And much as I love doing that and being done quickly, there's other parts of this thing that we've got to get to the second level, the third level, and we've got to kind of slow them down every once in a while because people get in the mindset of let's just get it all done while we're here. And that's not the best way to do this because that's going to come back and be more expensive than you want it to down the road. So when we sit down with people, our whole objective is to beat you up with questions, figure out where the needs are and help you build something that's customized that fits in yours. Because of how we're set up, I've got dozens of different carriers I work with. And so I'm not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, if you will. We're not trying to make something fit. Whereas so many companies, if what they have doesn't fit you, you got to go somewhere else. So we have about a 92% rate of people who walk in my door. I got something that's going to put you in a better place before you walk out of here.
92%.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So it's very strong in our industry, and we just feel like we bring a lot to the table. And we're one of the few companies that does the under 65 as well as the over 65. And so many of my Medicare clients, last year I probably wrote a couple of hundred. A third of them were people who had already been clients of mine prior to 65. We're just continuing on the journey with them to keep on going. Okay.
Well, we just talked about, there's two things I want to explore with you real quick. One, you got to educate us on these, so we'll get there in a second. But you just talked about clients that are continuing to stay with you, and I know you well enough to know how well you take care of your clients. Talk to us a little bit about that. What does that look like for you? Because I know how personal it is for you.
And it's, our whole thing is when we get leads and when we get referrals, once we get with people, we don't want you going somewhere else. The whole gamut of my business is I would rather get a book of so many people and just take care of them for the rest of their years as opposed to keep having to add people to my pipeline. Right. I'd rather build a team of new agents underneath me and let them have those, type of thing. That process consists of, keeping emails in front of you, keeping letters in your mailbox, having town hall meetings like we're getting ready to do as we go into enrollment season, and just kind of educating people. We do a lot of community events. We're out there on the streets. We do a lot of, trade shows and things going on in the fall that gets in front of folks. Sponsor a lot of events, just trying to, get our name out there because it's not a well-known one, but it's getting stronger as we go. And this whole thing about, having someone that you trust, because when people come to us, they're not buying my product, they're buying me, and they're trusting that I'm giving them something that's going to put them in a better place and take care of what they need it to take care of.
Right. Talk to us about, there's a lot of changes coming up, right? As we speak today, but I'm sure what you'll share will be relevant going forward as well. But with Medicare and Medicaid, talk to us about the difference of that, but then also what's happening here in October for changes.
Okay. So every year, here's, most people think Medicare is for people 65 and older. What they don't realize is 50% of the people on Medicare in our country are not 65 yet. They became disabled. Maybe they're veterans, maybe they had an accident at work, and they've been on disability. And so when that happens, there's a whole lot of people in that world also that don't realize what's available to them. There's people who've been on disability for 4 or 5 years and don't even realize they can get Medicare. There's people who are on Medicare that income isn't high enough that they actually qualify for a whole lot more help than what they're actually getting, something that'll come along and pay for those other things for you. But all that to be said, we got 11,000 people in a day in our country turning 65 years old.
Wow.
Okay, the baby boomers are hitting prime time here. So, and they're all in different demographics. And Middle Tennessee is usually a little bit safer heaven and a higher income sometimes, but not always, as far as what's in there. So our job is, on the Medicare side, this whole world can be very confusing, but if we do it right, we do it correct the first time, retention level on this product is very, very high. Usually in the 90s, and that once someone gets a plan they like, they keep it for the rest of their life. We don't change a whole lot, okay? So that's what makes this part of the job fun for us is because every year I can just get on the phone, check with my people. Are you guys good? Do we need to do anything else for you? No, I'm great. Thank you for checking in. And then we can go build our book and add people to it. The government and CMS is coming in this year because one of the things that you have to have with Medicare is prescription drug coverage. Whether it's through an individual drug plan, whether it's through a Medicare Advantage plan, but you have to have coverage. The problem with the prescription drug coverage plans is you either have people who hardly take any meds at all, or you have people who've got a bunch of health conditions and they're taking 12 or 15 different medications. And so they're getting into a point to where this stuff gets really pricey through the year. The government has taken the max out of pocket at the pharmacy, and it's going from $7,000, $8,000 down to $2,000 this year.
Wow.
So what does that mean? So that means once someone has spent $2,000 at the pharmacy, they're not paying for any medications the rest of the calendar year. For some people, that happens in March.
Sure.
Some people, it happens
quickly.
in August. So it all depends on what you're taking. And so they're giving. But where's that cost going? Okay. Well, someone's got to absorb it. It's not the consumer. It's not the diabetic. It's the insurance companies. Okay. So because they're having to take all that in and absorb that extra $6,000 a person who's using it, it's impacting a trickle down to everything else that's on those plans. Your co-pays at the doctor are going up. Your hospital stay is going up. Your dental bucket of $2,000 just went down to $1,500. all these types of things. And so everybody in the country is getting a letter in the mail called an ANOC, A-N-O-C. It's an annual notice of change. And they're getting a letter in the mail saying, here's what's happening with your plan next year. And it's a negative letter for most people. We are hearing that 85 to 90% of people on Medicare are going to want to shop and see what's available. I've got people on my books, Lindsay, that have been with me for 13 years on the same Medicare plan. They are happy as a clam where they are, but guess what? Hey, I'm coming. I need to look at what's available. What they don't realize is because they're getting this letters thinking my plan's not going to be that good. Every single company is doing the same thing. So once we get it in front of them and explain that to them, most people will probably stay right where they are. Mm-hmm. It's just a lateral move to switch. However, there are some things going on in Middle Tennessee with some of our hospitals and some of the networks. And some of the bigger name hospitals are not necessarily going to be a network with some of the bigger name plans that they have in the past. So therefore, we have to shop that again. Most people would rather keep their doctor than keep their insurance plan. Okay, so we're going to have to move them around. So all that is moving parts that is kind of interrupting what we normally do this time of year. Okay. The other thing that's interrupting this business this year is it's an election year. Mm-hmm. Okay. So many people will sit on their hands and wait and see what happens on November 5th before they decide what they want to do. Honestly, who gets elected has no impact on what's going to be on your insurance for 2025, but people like to wait it out. The other thing is we're not running TV advertisements because it costs 4 to 5 times as much in October this year as it does on a non-election year. So the commercials aren't going to start rolling until after the election's over, which makes the phone start ringing and everything else like this. So our season that's normally 7.5, 8 weeks for the Medicare people just got shrunk down to 4.
Wow.
So we're going to be very, very busy. So we're trying to use October to help all these people who have existing plans that want to make a change. Let's get in front of you. Let's sit down. Let's do what we need to do. Let's get all your questions answered and get you taken care of before November 1st.
Before it gets crazy.
Before it gets crazy, because then I won't be able to return the phone calls. If we can do that now, it's going to make it easier for everybody else. And so that's just kind of what we've got in front of us. And it's not that it's a hard phone call. I mean, but the idea with having the meetings is if I can get 40 people in a room and explain it to everybody at once, that's 40 phone calls I don't have to make. Right. You know what I'm saying? So there's not enough of me and my team and our people and people who do what we do. There's not enough of us to go around. Okay.
Well, and also, if somebody in that room has a question, it's likely somebody else has the same question.
Well.
So they're going to be learning from each other.
Exactly.
So, Tom, where can somebody go find where you're going to be?
It's a good question. I need to. I don't know if we have it on a website. If we have that posted on a website,
we'll put the link. We'll put the link on this on
do
YouTube.
It on yours.
And
I mean, they can go to my website and get my information, and then from there they can text or phone call me.
So if you're listening to this, go to wherever you found this. It'll be in the notes and the show notes so that you can find the information of where it is. And I'm sure we'll have a recap of a video explaining or of one of these town halls that you're doing, because this is really informative. And I am the oldest daughter, which we know is usually the one to make the decisions for their parents.
Correct.
And my parents we're in a unique position where they live next door to us. So I get to see them every day. And I can personally attest to my dad speaking to you and saying he made it something really hard. He made it so I understood what I needed to do. And you do a really good job of breaking it down and explaining it to people and helping point them in the right direction. Because as you said, government makes it complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated. So
that whole terminology and the stuff. Then what does this mean? What does this mean? I don't like using the term dumb it down, but that's kind of what we're doing. We're making it understandable. We're making it where people. And I grew up with a dad who ran a business with 300 employees and 10 locations and never took a business class in his life. He was a PE major and he did everything with a handshake. And so that.
Can you talk about that? Talk about how you grew up about that, because most folks that I have on the show did not grow up in a family where somebody was an entrepreneur.
Right.
You have a unique background.
Yeah, we did that. It's kind of fun. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and I tell everybody I'm the quiet one in my family. Okay. And so, because if I've got older siblings who are very successful in their careers, an older sister who's, way up that charts and national sales director with Mary Kay for the last 25 years and stuff like this. And so we have done, but we just learned that, a handshake means something. A look in the eye and an agreement means something. And it's not, my customers still, all of our clients still get a handwritten thank you note. You'll get emails and you'll get texts and stuff, but it's not the same thing. I mean, you think about it. You open your mailbox and here's a catalog, here's some coupons, here's a magazine. All of a sudden there's someone trying to sell you a credit card app, but all of a sudden there's a handwritten note. What's the first thing you're opening in your mail? Okay, we want to be that guy. We want to do those things that are a little bit different and just kind of keep it personal, and so people aren't feel like a name and not a number. And that's been that. And I learned that from my dad. And it was just, it's just that whole thing of just, we were W-2, so he could be a little more bossy. If I didn't shave, I clocked out and went home. You go shave and then you can come back to work.
And that was your dad.
That was my dad. No
that.
Shave, no pay. That's what I had. And so, and it's just, just making sure that we were there early in the morning. We were taking care of our folks. It was just all kind of instilled in us is what that work ethic was. And you work hard, you play hard, you just, what makes us different from somebody else. And so I've got 35, 40 agents on my team right now, and I try to instill that in everybody. But not everybody wants to do it. And that's the thing. And if they don't want to do it, then normally I don't have to ask them to go on. They're going to figure out I'm probably not cut out for this. And so, it's being self-employed is a different thing. I jokingly tell people when I hire them and when I interview them, the greatest thing about my jobs, I get to make my own schedule every day. The worst thing about my jobs, I get to make my own schedule every day. You look up and it's 4:00 and nothing positive's happened. It's no one's fault but mine. Right. But if you go do this right and you hustle and you put your blinders on and let's go forward and just quit thinking about what else is out there. You can look up in 6-7 years. I shared this with our group a few weeks back, and that all of a sudden you wake up one day and we're gone from here to here, and I can't even tell you how it happened, but it sure was fun. Yeah. And so
it was a roller coaster ride.
It was.
You got ups and downs, and you just got to. I love the saying, "Put your blinders on." I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Put your blinders on and just do what you got to do.
Better out there, and it's just figure out what you want. You can be kind of good at a lot of stuff, and you can be really good at one thing. And just taking it and going, and then. I started when I was 42, 43 at this. Today I'm, late 50s, and I wish I'd started when I was 25. I've got a son in the business. I've got a son-in-law in the business and some young guys. And I said, guys, if you'll do this right, you can be at 35 where I was at 55.
Right.
And all of a sudden you get to enjoy, you get to go serve, you get to have more time with your kids and do all this other stuff that a lot of people don't get to, because of how it's done. And so we try to, understand it. Those first 3 or 4 years are going to be brutal. It's going to take a minute, but once you're there, this machine will run itself.
Do you remember the first few years of starting your business?
Oh, gosh,
I know it's hard to remember, but do you remember, did you ever want to quit?
If I had $1 for every time I wanted to quit, I'd be wealthy as all get out right now. You know what I mean?
But you got through it.
It did. And it's just, but you understand. And the thing that kept me going was I had a wife and 4 kids, and for some reason, everybody wants to eat every day. Go figure,
Can't believe it.
Just kind of one of those
and
deals.
You got boys too.
But we do. And I mean, so a lot of Saturday mornings on the phone, a lot of Monday nights till 10 o'clock, trying to schedule my appointments and get in front of people and, get my weeks laid out. And so, and then and there was people ahead of me, and you look at them, you're thinking, okay, and they're very, very successful. And you look at some of them, you're thinking, I wouldn't buy anything from that guy, but look at him. Look at what he's doing. I said, if he can do this,
if he can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. We got this. And so, and then not wanting to be outdone and trusting the system and just knowing that this guy's so ADD over here that if this didn't work, he wouldn't be here anymore. And so, and all of a sudden you look up and it's just, and every year was a little bit better than the last one. Then you hit up and all of a sudden things start happening. We've gotten to the top of that mountain and now we're going downhill a little bit. Now it's just kind of controlling the pace coming down for what it wants to do. But it didn't happen overnight. But with the systems in place and the stuff that we have, what took me 12 years, new people in our company can get there in 5 or 6.
So if somebody's interested in joining you in business, you're hiring.
Oh, absolutely.
So check out his website if you're looking for something.
Sure.
I can personally say I'd work for Tom. Mm-hmm. Great company, great person. All right, I'm giving my notice. Lyndsay Stafford. No. But seriously, you have the ability to help people change their lives and take it into their own hands. So if you're looking for something, Tom's a great person to talk to. I want to switch gears for a second and go to the fruits of your labor, because I know you recently just went on an amazing trip for a month.
Right.
And when I think about all the conversations I have with local legends here in Middle Tennessee, there's this reward that happens when you've built something, and you are a story that not a lot of people get to share. Can you tell us about the experience and what that was like to be able to do that?
As far as where we went for the trip and so forth?
And share what you did, yeah.
So basically our company does a big event every year, and it's a rewards trip. They take the top 100 and something agents and so many other positions in the company. And every other year it's international, every other year it's in the United States. And so ironically enough, we were 2 years ago, because of COVID, we had to cancel 2 trips because the towns we were going to. And so right in the middle of COVID, they said, next year's trip, drum roll please, Nashville, Tennessee. We're like, oh boy. So my wife and I literally took an Uber from Brentwood to downtown Nashville for 8 minutes and stayed in a hotel downtown for 4 nights. And I had all these people from all over the country saying, man, this is awesome. I'm like, yeah, I was just here yesterday. Yeah. But anyway, this past year we got to go to the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And so the company helps offset the cost of your plane tickets. And so anytime we're going to go international, my wife and I will say, let's stay 3 or 4 more days. Let's go pick up something else. If you're going to, because if you're going international, 5 days isn't enough anyway. It'll mess you up sleep-wise and everything. So let's stay a few more. And so as things begin to work out, one of our friends plays in a band. He was with a popular country artist, and he was going to be in London about 2 weeks after we were going to be there. And so we got to playing around with it and thinking, we'd love to go with a bunch of friends to go see him, but it's cheaper for us just to stay over there than it was to come home and buy 2 more plane tickets when the company was paying for most of my first one. So long story short, we ended up staying 32 days, and we got over to Italy and we did the Amalfi Coast with the company for about 5 or 6 days. I had about 5 agents on my team that also qualified for the trip. So we did all of that. Then we worked our way over to some other parts of Italy, and then eventually got up to Tuscany and Florence, and then went over to up to Lake Como for 3 or 4 nights, made our way to Zurich, Switzerland for 4 or 5 nights, and then eventually up to London for a week, and did all that kind of thing, and came back, and just, and it was wonderful because of the industry that I'm in and what I do. So much of it can be done via Zoom, via telephone call, via whatever the case is now. I was able to keep working, and we literally would get up in the morning, go do whatever we wanted to do. We'd come home about 3 in the afternoon. My wife would, say, I'm going to go crash for a minute or whatever the case is. I'd pull out my laptop and it's 3 in the afternoon, but it's 8 o'clock in the morning here.
You
all
bust
my
out
people,
a few
so
hours.
I'd sit there and bust out 2 or 3 hours, zooming with my team, what's going on with everybody. We'd get done by 6. We'd all have dinner and wash, rinse, repeat, and do it again tomorrow. And so it was just, I get used to this real fast.
Yeah.
And so it's just, and you walk everywhere when you're over there. I think we average about 7 miles a day on our tennis shoes. We threw them in the trash the last day before we came home. Didn't even bring them back with us.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. Just wore them out.
They were that trashed.
But it was such a great experience. But and I shared with the group you and I are in together that I could not have done this 8 years ago. I would have, and you're young, you need babysitters and stuff. We're empty nesters, so it's a little bit different for us. But it was one of those deals to where I couldn't even thought about it, because you go back 10 years. I'm sitting there and my wife calls in the middle of the day. It's a Tuesday, and she says, when do you get paid again? I said, Thursday. She said, how much? I said, I think I'm getting 4,000 or 5,000. So, why? She said, they just cut the water off. And I'm just like, shoot, because you're pushing so hard. You're trying so hard. You're trying to make ends meet. You're doing all this stuff, and it's there. It's just an honest mistake, and it happens. But, I've been there. And so that going through some of the stuff I've been through and some of the hard times, and this is just kind of an example of a story, I have a whole lot more compassion for the people on my team, but I also know you can come out of it, and we're not going to sit around and make excuses. We're not going to talk about poor, pitiful me. Okay, remember what this feels like, and let's keep going. We'll work yourself out of that jam, figure it out. It motivates, and I don't ever want my wife to have to call me and tell me that again, and so we keep going. Then you look up, and all of a sudden this machine runs itself, because the name of the game in our industry is residual. Okay. And so you want, when you're starting off, it's all about what have you done for me lately? I got to go right. I got to create cash flow. I got to keep the lights on, the water running, keep the kids in tennis shoes and school supplies up to speed and all that stuff. We got to do all that.
Right.
But then when it's all said and done, it gets to a point to where, now you're able to, if I don't write anything, if I decided to hang up my cleats and said, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm burnt out, the heck with y'all, I'm good for the next 12 years. If I don't sell another policy.
I mean, that's a legacy that you're going to be able to leave.
That's the beauty in this industry, but it doesn't happen overnight. And it's just, and you got to be thick-skinned. You got to have the stomach for it. And yes, there was times I looked at saying, okay, maybe I need to go take a job in corporate America. It's got benefits. It's going to pay me X amount, and just solidify things and just have stabilization in it. And every time I looked at it, I just thought, I'm going to kick myself if I do this. It's not for everybody. If you're that person that needs that, then yeah, go do it, because we need everybody, But for me personally, it was a situation of I don't want to be told how much I can make and how much I can't. I don't want to be told it stops here. One of the hardest things for me in my last job in my years in Dallas with Ferguson is I was over 50-something salespeople. I was on a salary plus a bonus based on how the company did. Everybody underneath me was straight commission, was base plus commission. All but 3 people underneath me made more than I did, and I'm their manager. And I'm like, something's wrong with this picture. You know what I mean? Because my division did just soared. The other divisions of the company struggled a little bit. And so therefore, there's not a bonus pool for the managers. And so when I came in and started this, I realized, hey, sky's the limit for this deal. Let's go see what you can do. And honestly, I sat in my room. We had a meeting 3 or 4 months ago, and I had 21 of my agents in there. And I said, show of hands, how many of y'all made 6 figures last year? All but 3 hands went up. Okay. What people don't realize is if you're making 6 figures, you're in the top 15% of money makers in the United States. If you're making $200,000, you're in the top 8% of money makers in the United States. Now, it doesn't feel like that where we live, in the community and what we're around. But you don't have to drive very far to the other side of downtown Nashville to realize there's a whole different world over there. And when we sit down with these people and we're able to take that person who's living on Social Security and not bringing in more than $1,200 a month or whatever the case is, and we're able to help them figure out what a Medicare plan is going to do for them and what it's going to help them. I've got people over there who've been my clients for 15 years, and they hug your neck and they're just so thankful, and we get them taken care of. They're not going anywhere else, So we're not limited to which demographic we can help with what we do. Everybody needs what I've got.
Everybody needs it.
You know what I mean?
Tom, you're just such an incredible human. I love talking to you. I love listening. You have a way of explaining and articulating things that make sense and just draws you and you want to listen. So not surprised that you're seeing the success that you've seen. You shared so many good things. I want to end on this. For somebody who's aspiring to be where you are, who looks at you and says, gosh, all that you just shared, I'd love to be able to do that, but I'm scared. I don't know if I can do it. Mm-hmm. What's your advice for them?
I tell people all the time when I interview them, I say, what we do is not hard, okay? But it's not easy either. If it's easy, everybody do it, okay? And then when I say, are you worried? Are you scared? If they tell me no, I don't hire them. You need to be anxious. You need to be worried. You need to, because you don't know what you don't know. Being afraid is not a bad thing. It's just it's a motivating factor for a lot of people. We had a guy on our team one day who just he was still living with his mom and dad. He was failure to launch, like the movie and so forth. We called his parents and said, go buy him a car, make him start making payments. And we didn't tell him we were doing that. The kid all of a sudden is starting having to make car payments and is all proud of his new vehicle and so forth. But his sales started doubling and tripling because all of a sudden there was some responsibility there. And so that's usually what gets people going is all of a sudden I've got a rent to pay, I've got a mortgage, I've got a family, we got daycare, we got stuff like this. And they understand, I can go take a job and work X amount of hours and I know what I'm going to get in 2 weeks. But if I'll just drill down and do this, I can make that amount in about 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And if I can do it again tomorrow, I can make it again. And it's just, but it is a learning process. But there's, I've learned, I've had so many people who've come to work on my team that I've thought, man, he's going to be a rock star. And I was disappointed. And I've had people come and said, I don't know if she's got what it takes. And they're still with me and they're killing it. So I've learned not to judge a book by its cover.
You never know.
You just don't. And we don't know what's in that gut, what's in that heart, and what's in that person that says, I've got a why, I've got a reason, and I want to do it, and I want to do it right, And I've got every background in the world, from people who've been in the medical field and are nurses to folks who've been accountants to folks who've, have done it. If you can have a conversation, you can make people feel comfortable across the table from you. We can teach you the rest of it. It's just getting your head around it and understand it. And so we jokingly say one of my agents on my team is very analytical. He wants to read all the fine print and all the details before he goes out and tries to present something. So while he's getting ready to prepare to start to get going to do everything, I've already had 5 appointments.
Right.
And if someone asks me a question I didn't know, I'm like, let me find out for you. And just kind of work through it as it goes. He's doing just fine. We do things completely differently, mm-hmm. and he hadn't missed a meal. So it's just figuring out, is this 4 years? Is it not? But people see the biggest thing in this is the long-term benefit. Right. And you see so many people on my team who are over 60, who've been through corporate America. They've been let go, replaced by someone 20 years younger than them. Well, the thing in this industry is what we found out is my best clientele are the people who are 5 years younger than me to 5 years older than me. We're going through life together. We're going through the same things. I can relate. We can talk about the same stuff. We've been wherever it is. And in doing so, that's why age is not a factor in this thing, is that it's, yes, with the younger folks, are they spending as much on the policies? Probably not. And so it's not, but you're also building you a pipeline for years to come. And if you take care of this person, guess what? He's going to give you his mom and dad just like you gave me yours.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what we're trying to work from and just help them understand it. The government has taken something that was very easy and made it very complicated. It used to be that someone my age, if a 20-year-old tried to talk to me about health insurance, I'm like, I've been in the hospital more days than you've been alive. You know what I mean? I can't relate. Today, they've made it so confusing that anybody who can explain it to me, I'll stop and listen. And that's what we're trying to do. We try to teach our people, here's how you have those conversations. Here's what you do in front of people. Here's what it is. Here's how you explain it to them the easiest way. And help them get something that's going to benefit them not only for the immediate stuff, but long-term down the road that's going to put them in a better place to where if I do my job right, you're worth more injured and sick than you are healthy and well. Okay, let's make this more of an investment than it is an expense. And so that's what we're trying to, set everybody up with as we go forward with what we do.
I love it. I love all of that. Thinking about it from the perspective of somebody who is aspiring to change their life and start something new, but also from someone who's got parents that are aging and who we're all aging, right? Everyone in the world is aging. So we all need what you have to offer. And your story about the water being shut off is such a testament to, you just don't know the journey that somebody's been on. You see them here. Yeah. You don't know. We did have our water shut off. It's because I forgot to pay the bill. Yeah. One time.
It is. And it happens. And then we went through when COVID went on. We lost two of our parents during COVID. My wife and I did. And it was one of those deals to where we traveled out to Texas. Her dad's in a hospital and we can't even go in and see him. We're having to FaceTime him from a hotel room across the street. These types of things. But then all of a sudden things happen. Well, her mother's already gone. Now it's just her dad. We're in this little small town out in West Texas, and we're having to do all kind of due diligence. Well, guess he passed away in like October of that year. So it's right in the middle of our busy season. But you know what? With this job, with this career, I can do it from anywhere. I literally set up camp in my father-in-law's office,
What a blessing.
While we're working through all that stuff and just got it taken care of. I get on the phone with people. I could Zoom with my team. We could do whatever we wanted to. And still able to take care of everything and get it done. So it doesn't shut you down and keep you from being able to work. If I had to clock in and clock out somewhere, I'd have been toast.
Right.
I've got 4 people on my team who have children who are special needs. You know what? 2:30 every day, I got to go pick my son up and we got to go home. Then they get going again after the kids settle down about 6:30 or 7. They'll work till 10. So there's just a lot of cool stuff about it that makes it work for us.
Just that autonomy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Tom, where can we find you? Tell people where to find you. And I'm going to share the links in the show notes, but you've got your website.
We're on Facebook, or you can go to healthmarkets.com/TOMLAW.
Yep, Tom Law. Easy. 6 letters.
It's easy.
Tom Law.
So my mom gave us all 3-letter names, so we'd be the first one in our class to write. I got a sister Jan, a brother D, a brother Sam. And so
that's amazing.
And my dad's Dan, and mom was the only one that didn't have 3 letters in her name, but it made it easy. So I'm sitting next to a girl whose last name was Neuenschwander in school. I was done before she even got through it. And her first name was Melanie, so Melanie Neuenschwander. I had time to get up and go get a drink, go to the bathroom before she had her name written after I'd done mine,
Oh, you didn't know you're coming to a comedy show here with Tom Law. Tom, thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the education, all that you're doing and educating for the community here with the changes that are happening. You make it easy, and you're just such an inspiration. You inspire me every time I'm around you.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in.